Hey, Connie. This is just crazy. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you for.
No
All right, so let me open up my questions here.
Do you mean to call somebody, Connie?
Yeah, do you want to call, well, Leslie was going to be in the art room, so maybe try calling the art room. And
Okay.
Leslie Bianco, thanks.
So how are things in this
They're
craziness
good.
we call COVID?
They're crazy, but they're good.
What did I do with my headphones?
I'm dyslexic, got it backwards.
What's that?
I'm trying to call Kirsten Hansen, but I called Kevin Kashuba instead. Dyslexic. Instead of 43, I did 34.
You said Bianco because she's not answering in art.
You could try her room.
I am. Okay. I just want to make sure that's who it was. Hi, is Miss Bianco?
Hi, Kirsten.
Hi, Tamu. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. It's nice to see your face.
Well, my internet is a little wonky, so you'll probably see some things in and out. I have a different computer, but it doesn't have a good camera, so
Okay.
that'd be interesting. Unless I do it on my phone. Okay. Let me see if I can, what's my computer?
I'm not finding her, Connie.
That's okay. We can start with who's here. I'm gonna try to get into my other computer because that will work off the Wi-Fi. You might hear some feedback for a minute. Okay. I'm leaving this one.
So, I mean, if I were to say what the relationship or what the relationship between the schools and the police department are as a little bit of a teaching thing, because I think it's important that the students and we see the police as real individuals and as people who take their job seriously and people who are there to help us. I think that we also have been able to form some kind of a relationship, again, outside of a crisis situation, that would help to be able to, in the event of a real crisis. We also rely on the police department to monitor even after hours. And I mean, I don't know if this is the forum for that or not. I know that they're very busy, but I have called about things that have happened on our playground after hours, and I really have not had good response. And I, the patrolling or whatever else that I would like to see. Our playground, I would say at least a few times a month, we find drug paraphernalia and other evidence that there's some illegal things going on in our playground, even though it's been taped off.
Right.
So.
I mean, those rules are for everybody else, not for me. Anybody else have something to kind of add to what Connie says, or?
I do like how in the past we've had police officers come into the building, and when we have like a whole school assembly or something, or grade level assembly, and they talk to the kids and explain what it is exactly that they do in the community. So I like the idea of putting emphasis on this idea of to protect and to serve. I think a lot of our student population see the police officers in a very different light. Perhaps because, just for reasons that they may come into their homes. We know that these kids experience a lot of domestic violence, a lot of adults with dependency issues, chemical dependency issues. There's a lot of that stuff happening. And so it's nice for the kids to see that other side of what the police do. So they have a more positive experience with them.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the protect and serve. Like that's what when I think of police officers, that's what their role is in our community, in my life, whatever needs to happen. I really, I was at a different school that had SROs. I know the elementary, they don't come in, but it was nice that they had that opportunity to build relationships with children and students alike, that they befriended them in a way that they still had authority, but had a relationship that they trust, the kids built trust with them. And then I think that's important that they have a relationship of trust with police officers, so that they're not scared of them or think that they're bad people, because they're not typically.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. So the next question I have, and Connie maybe touched on this a little bit, is what ways can we improve policing and build better relationships with the community? And by that, again, I mean maybe your school community or the community that's right around your school, because they're so close to the school where you are.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if when we do like our food handouts, like we've done in the past over quarantine and things like that, I'm wondering if, maybe having an officer present for that might be a good thing, having them participate in some of the ways that we give back to the community, not just in policing the community. So, yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had too many family events and all of that right now because we just can't.
Right.
But I agree that some of those, it's nice at the high school and I think what Rachel said last year at the Success Academy, we had the opportunity to see the police officers and to joke around with them and to actually see them as real human beings instead of some super unapproachable hard-necked person who won't, who you can't really talk to, and you don't want to cross paths with because they're scary. So some family events and that kind of thing. I mean, I wish that we had more who were Spanish speaking, and that could really communicate in that sense and build the relationships.
And I think also for the police officers, it would probably be a nice way, like a sensitivity training almost, to see also that these families, you can see these families in a different light too, that not only is this person maybe a minor drug offender, not only is this person has a DUI or something of that matter, but this person also has a child and they care about what their child is doing in the school. So in the same way that the children and the families could learn about the police officers, I think it's an opportunity for the police officers to see this community, especially our community, much more than the crimes that they commit or, allegedly commit.
Right. You have to wait till you're charged and found guilty, right?
I would add one other thing, I guess. When I was at Ring, I had a couple of the officers had children in our building. We saw them quite a bit more frequently here. I know that we had a couple months of school and I hadn't seen any. They had come into the office, but I just hadn't seen them. And so I don't know if because they had children, we saw them more often, or because of COVID that they're not coming in as often, or whatever the case is. But and or Rachel, you can speak to how often they've come in. I have only seen them a couple of times myself. So
yeah, it's fallen off this month. We haven't seen them. I don't think they've come in at all in November, but we were seeing them at least weekly. One of the officers was in, but it's been a few weeks since anybody has been in.
Can I ask what the role of the officer is when they come into the building like that? Is it, like you said, Connie, just to kind of get familiar with the layout of the building in the event of an emergency so they can help faster? I know sometimes in the high school when I was there, they would kind of be present, do a walkthrough as sort of like preemptive disciplinary sort of thing, just to give this idea of, hey, you guys are being watched, and sometimes that doesn't always have the best effect. So I'm wondering, is there another reason why they come into the building, or is it just to kind of?
So again, like I said, the original reason that we were given came after, I don't remember, there was something big that happened when Dr. Apthorpe was here. And they called all the principals together. He called the lockdown or lockout and whatever the case was. We all got together and talked about what procedures we really needed to have in our buildings. Oh, maybe it was the one shooting where the kids were at Jefferson, I believe. And it was after that event that he called us all in and talked about what we needed to do. And one of the things we needed to do was it was a two-way thing. We needed to see more police presence and the children needed to see more police presence, but we also needed them to be very familiar with our buildings and also in case we had an actual shooting. So it really was a two-way thing. There was an expectation that they got to know. Now we have taken advantage of the officers just like the high school has. And, I've had kids in my office before and the police will come through and I'll say, hey, could we just have a chat with you and can you talk to us about what happens in the real world when people do such and such or whatever. And we've had some conversations where they've been helpful. And I know recently we had a police officer who happened to be here, and we had a student who was having some difficulty behaving and the same thing. He was very, I was appreciative of this. He was very, very calming toward the student and asking questions. And he was basically being more of a counselor than anything, but I think it was a good experience for that student.
Thanks. If you could think about it, what does equality and social justice with regard to law enforcement mean to you or to your students or to your staff? It's a tough one, I know.
I
Mhm.
don't want to talk too
Big,
much.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is that all people are treated equally, and that the color of your skin doesn't determine how brutal or how strict somebody is with you. And most of all, that we treat, I mean, that we don't use undue force. And I mean, I want to protect the lives of our officers, but I want to protect the lives of our people in our community. And I know that after having our meeting last year that Tamu, you were part of, with the community, there were a lot of shared incidences of people, police officers and other people, teachers, I mean, everybody, who were not being sensitive and not being supportive of other cultures. So, culturally responsive, I guess the word.
yeah, I mean, I would say I would agree with you, Connie, especially in regards to our school community, because we have such a racially diverse population, and also very low income too. And I think oftentimes, sometimes, I mean, I would say race plays a larger part than economic status does, as far as what we see on the larger scale, the way the police treat people, the way they handle situations. So it would be nice to see a more even-handed approach to, to anyone who is being addressed, spoken to, handled, whatever, by the police officers. It would be nice to see a very even-handed approach.
Kirsten, I just want to reflect back on something you said earlier with regard to the fact that when I think social justice, or maybe this kind of connects with it, so I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but when I heard you say that, it what you said was to look at this individual possibly as a minor drug offender that you've seen several times, but also this person is a parent, and also this person is trying to do the best that they can at the time, and look at it through a lens of this person is more than the interaction that you've had with them in the past. And so when that may also fall into that category when you think of how the law enforcement may interact with the community.
Yeah, I mean, especially right now too. I mean, everybody has a sob story. Everybody has something big in their lives that's happening to them right now in the midst of this global pandemic. You have political upheaval. You have one of the largest social movements of our time. So yeah, everybody does have a backstory. Everybody has a situation that they might be dealing with, and to see some of these people that the police are dealing with treated fairly, regardless of that. They are not just that one thing that they have done. There's so much more. So yeah, I would say definitely that falls in the same category, the same answer. I don't know if I commented on that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
What we're going to do is we're going to, kind of take the big themes from all of these conversations as we begin to write this document. And of course, we're going to want continued community input on the draft of this document. So that's an important piece.
Also, I mean, I think also the generational trauma too. When you talk about when I talk to my students and they'll mention that the police have come to their house or something has happened, they very much speak about the police like they are the bad guy. I mean, and you can tell, an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, you can tell by the way they talk about the situation who's the bad guy in the story. When they're and so it would be nice if they could have more positive experiences with the police officers, because I think oftentimes what happens is, you know, you have this idea of who they are and what they do, and that you carry that with you into your adult life too, and it affects the way that you interact with them in the future. So if we could have more positive interactions with them, with our youth, I think that that would be very beneficial to how we move forward into the future.
Thank you. Gonna kind of talk a little bit more, or ask you a little bit more about what is police accountability and transparency, either in the school setting or personally, mean to you? And do you think we have enough, or do you think we need more?
Do we have a community review board that reviews actions of the police or potential misconduct or anything like that?
At the present time, no.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like. I don't know what exactly that looks like, the legalities of it, but it would be nice to have some sort of community review board that looks at, I don't know if it's specific cases or if, you know, cases can be brought to their attention. There needs to be some sort of third-party oversight, I feel like. Because body cameras don't do anything.
Body cameras have helped, though. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they help be transparent.
Okay.
But I mean, it's who looks at those cameras. You know, I mean, who looks at the footage? I don't know.
Well, I think that if we have a review board of some sort, that it really ought to be a very diverse group of individuals too. I mean, you know, if you have more of the, you know, I'm blue-eyed and blonde, and I can just say that. So if you have everybody blue-eyed and blonde, then on the review board, then it's hard to give that credibility. And so if you have a nice diverse group who's looking at it, then I think that there's an element too of somebody who's kind of got everybody's back, not just some people's.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you. Well, you kind of talked about these, you talked about transparency, you talked about communication, there's a review board. Would there, just as you think about maybe their presence in the school or the times that you've had to come, do you think there are any additional services that would be helpful from law enforcement in addition to the walkthroughs or things like that, or coming to more community activities, a service that the police department as a whole could be providing to schools?
Well, I think about on Facebook the times I've seen in other communities or other places where a couple of police officers will see, you know, the neighborhood kids playing basketball or something, and stop, and you can tell that the kids are nervous that, you know, they're going to be in trouble or something's going to happen, and they start playing basketball. I think that it would be kind of a cool thing if on an ongoing basis there was some kind of an opportunity to, you know, the Tuesday nights at such and such a gym, open gym, and it's an open thing where there are law enforcement people that might come in as well, and maybe not in uniform, maybe in t-shirts and shorts, and you know, play with them, something like that.
It helps to, when they don't put on the uniform, they see that these individuals are more than just the uniform, the police officer. Yeah. So I've asked the questions that I had intended to ask. Is there anything that you would want to make sure that you've shared, either personally or on behalf of your school community or elementary schools or the school community at large, that would be helpful to think about putting into our report?
I'm just curious. I haven't seen it at our school here in elementary, but in our district, are police officers used? Like, in it, like I've read about it in different places where a police officer will come in and threaten like a 9-year-old girl who's acting out and being, you know, physically aggressive, and they will subdue the child and restrain the child or something. Has that ever happened in our district? Do they do that?
It does happen. I mean, I could speak about a couple of things that I've seen and witnessed in my time as a principal. You know, a handful of times that I've seen something or learned about something. You know, I think that I will say in some cases it may have been justified, and other times I've felt like that was really overkill. And I think that some you know, I don't know what the right terminology is, but a sensitivity and you know, it's a fine line, because when you're a police officer, you have to be ready to react. And one of the things that we expect of a police officer, I believe, is that, you know, there's no time to really like take time to ponder something before you act on it. You have to do something. But I think that the more that we know each other, the less that we're going to have those times when some child or I would imagine it happens more at the high school, when some young youth is taken down to the ground, and the circumstances around it, and then when that does happen, that we really take the time to review what happened and to find out if there was an overreaction, or if it was you know, a justified thing. Our schools have cameras, so those things are very easy and the police officers have cameras. They would be very easy to do that. But I think anytime a child is particularly physically subdued by a police officer, you know, that it ought to be looked at and to find out, you know, did we do this right, or what will we do in the future to avoid this type of a thing? And
because I mean, really, don't we have? I feel like our teachers, some of our teachers, anyways, are trained on how to physically restrain students themselves. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. So I see that as kind of unnecessary. I feel like it might be a little too much for the kids, just in my personal opinion. I don't really know that at the elementary at our level, but at the high school level, where kids are pretty big, yeah, and when their adrenaline's going, and you know, I saw that fight last year. I just happened to be there when it happened. And, oh, lucky you! And it was brutal, and so I was wishing that there were more police officers.
I think, I mean, the teachers did a great job. I don't want to rehash all of that, but you know, there's a time for it, but I think that it's very, very few, and maybe we do more times than what we need to.
Yeah.
It's a good question though, Kirsten. So thank you for asking.
Yep.
Anything else that, you know, one of the things, and I wonder how this might be brought down to the elementary level, but one of the things that has been mentioned in other groups was several years ago, there used to be a citizens academy. And what that was maybe a 2 or 3 hour kind of overview for the residents of Jamestown to come in and just kind of understand what it is the police officers are there to do, what use of force means and when they use it, and how it goes up the continuum, and things like that. And so one of the requests has been to bring back the Citizens Academy, to allow people to go through like a mini police academy for a couple of hours. I wonder if something was kind of put together like that for young children to understand, either on an assembly or an in-service day or something like that. Would that be something that you think might help children and staff to understand kind of what goes on in the police, in the role of a police officer in the police department? Or might that be too much over your head for the students. Maybe for the staff on in-service day, but maybe not for the students. I'm not quite sure.
Maybe for the older kids, the grades 3 and 4, I feel like but I feel like K2 might be a little much.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something we could put into a pop assembly? Just something fun that a police officer or two could come and do a little skit, or not skit, but something related to what they do in one of our pop assemblies.
You know, the DARE officers, remember the DARE officers of years past?
Mm-hmm.
I think that I know that my own children loved when DARE officer came to school and they had a weekly meeting with the DARE officer, or what, I don't know how often it was. Something like that I think might be appropriate. I don't know much about the Citizens Academy, but you know, I think that there's a responsibility on the people to learn about the police as well. And so what you're talking about is actually good. You know, I think that almost anybody who, you know, I'd be careful about how to say this because I'm not sure I'm saying it right. And, you know, on the times that we've had incidences in our country for a long time, not even just in the recent past, but there have been several times when, you know, I've said to myself, when a police officer is telling you to stop or put your hands up or do something like that, you know, do it. And you know, so knowing how they're trained and knowing how not doing it might cause some difficulty, you know, you can figure everything else out later, but you know, just do it. So I think that there's a responsibility all the way around for us to learn. So it's not a bad idea.
Good point, Connie.
How would it be sort of like, how would that information be disseminated to people? So it would just be sort of like voluntary, sign up, come learn about our police force?
Yeah, they used to do it back in, I think, like in the mid to late 90s. So of course it was more people were reading the Post Journal. So we would definitely have to find a way to make sure that that information is made possible. So the old school ways, press releases in the paper, on the radio stations, what have you, information to community organizations, probably to the Kathy Penabianco to disseminate to the school staff. So we would try to recommend that they exercise all possibilities and probably put together a schedule. We're going to offer these once a month at such and such a place, and they're 2.5 to 3 hours long. You know, depending on when we do that, who knows how many they'll allow in the rooms now, but they do give people, even if they wanted to now, the opportunity to, you know, go to the firing range if they'd like to, just to kind of understand what that is all about. For the adults, of course, but just to kind of explain what the role of police officer is, what it means, what to expect when you get pulled over, what to expect when they do have to put cuffs on someone, and I think they might do some role playing as well with the staff. So that is another with the citizens. So that is another piece of it. So
you know. The fire department comes around once a year to the schools. Generally, we didn't this year because we can't get together. But in a normal type of a setting, a yearly little assembly with some kind of a program or something from the police would be from the school standpoint would be good. I know that I work with the young women at church. I would love to have a police officer come and talk to us about his duties and roles, and then talk to them about self-protection.
Oh yeah.
And you know, or a women's group or several, so maybe some opportunities for reach out, like you said, some of the, you know, I don't know if their Boy Scouts are kind of going under now, but but any kind of
Let's not talk about them.
Any kind of a group, or a youth group, or you know, something like that. Schools could sponsor something, a night, an evening or something where families could come and learn more about that as well. We look at our police officers as heroes, and you know, every Halloween people dress up like the police officers. So you know, I think that I think that the more that we can know about each other and learn and be real people and real humans, the better off that we'll have our kids and our community to be trusting of the police officers and to have the police officers trusting of the community.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, even like when I think back, like even when I'm like driving my car, and I'm not a particularly threatening person, but I'm driving my car, doing my thing. And regardless of how closely I'm following all of the rules, if there is a police officer near me, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Like you just automatically feel like there's a possibility that, you could be doing something wrong, or it just, I don't know. So it would be nice maybe to kind of see them in a different light. I mean, so if it's for me, like a middle-class white woman, how I feel, I imagine how it must feel, for somebody in a very different situation. So that kind of transparency, this introduction into what they do and what they're really here for would probably be a very good thing.
Great. Okay, well, I have asked everything that I feel that would be relevant for this round. I might come back, but we're talking with all kinds of groups: education, mental health, probation, businesses, faith-based communities, the Latino community, African American community. So we really kind of want to make sure we get as many people as we can, but we will also hold some kind of like all call events if people felt like they weren't fitting into a specific group, but they wanted to participate. We'll do that shortly, just to kind of invite people from the community to just kind of generally talk. It'll be the same questions, but if they wanted to participate, we will invite them to do that. So I want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And
thank you. This is important. Thank you.
Yeah, it is important. And, the police don't, to talk with Jeff Russell, who's on council, he recognizes that, all systems need a look. I mean, our education system needs a look, our healthcare system needs a look, all the systems that we have need a really stark look. So this is a small start, but it's an important start. So thank you all for being here today. And your information will be kind of merged with the middle and high school when I meet with them on Thursday, and I'll go with some trends of things that we've seen, as well as, disaggregating them for the different levels too. So thanks again, and you all have a great day. All right, take care. Okay, bye-bye.